Yep. So it's not an exaggeration to say that you could spend many hours studying chapter 32. We're going to do it in 2 classes. But just know that as the heart of Tanya, which means really the nerve center of Hasidic philosophy, it has an extraordinary amount of information and wisdom. And so last week, not last week, week before, we started chapter 32, following up on the few chapters before it, where the Alter Rebbe talked about how when you find yourself spiritually challenged, that one of the simplest or one of the most certain ways of getting past the spiritual challenge is to humble your existence, humble your humanness, and let your soul take front and center. Let the neshama be the primary. He said the more you can humble yourself, the more you'll lose enthusiasm for the animalistic tendencies and the animal pleasures, the human pleasures. And that could lead to a sadness, but he said, don't worry about that, because if you remind yourself that besides the animal instinct in you, you also have a godly instinct in you, and the nefesh Eloki, the godly soul, is actually what's worth writing home about. That's what's worth being excited about. Then you'll have a tremendous joy when you recognize the opportunity presented by having a godly soul. First of all, in identifying with the godly soul and being a godly soul, not just an animal soul. And second of all, the good, the favor that you can do for the godly soul, being a spark of the divine that is, the Alter Rebbe described as exiled into a lowly human condition. Every time you do a mitzvah or read some Torah or do something godly, you're essentially giving that spark of God, that spark of the divine, your godly soul, you're giving it a furlough out of its exile and into some fresh godly air for even for temporary, for a brief moment. And the more you can do that, the greater the gift is to the godly soul. He also said that it stands to reason by the same logic that the lower you find yourself being spiritually, the more down you get on yourself for your lowly spiritual state, the greater the joy will be, because the greater the gift is to the godly soul.
So by giving the soul space means stepping away from physical?
Stepping away from physical for the purpose of the physical. Stepping away from the physical being your identity. So when you do a mitzvah, you have to use physical things. You don't want to step away from the physical completely. You don't want to go climb up to a mountain and sit and meditate. You want to do mitzvahs.
You eat it for survival, not for I want the shawarma. Like go to falafel, stop to eat shawarma if you want to eat.
No. There's a limit to everything.
That's not survival. I mean, that's too dangerous.
So let's say tomorrow I'm in a low spirituality mood and I want to get out of it. What would be the step? Like,
get a shawarma.
No, but what do I change I change the intention, I change the stuff I'm doing, the intention.
So sometimes you have to change what you're doing. Sometimes you just have to change the intention and keep doing the same thing.
And I guess the spirituality, bigger, better space.
Not so much spirituality, but godliness. There's a difference. God created spiritual and physical.
Right.
We're not trying to focus on the spiritual. We're trying to focus on the godly. We're trying to focus on why he created the world, not what he created. Hey, an interesting thing. Just the other day, in my prison course, a similar question came up where a guy was saying that he's really working very hard and he's really amazing. And some of these guys are just incredible. The work that they put into becoming good people is remarkable. So there's one guy who's saying that, he really tries really hard, but, sometimes, in his words, he says, sometimes, you just gotta buy a honey bun from the canteen. No, what are you gonna do? Sometimes you need what you need. And he was kind of implying that he felt like that was a failure, being selfish or being childish or whatever. So I said, I have a suggestion, just a off the cuff thought. I said, how often do you have a honey bun? So he said, I don't know, 3-4 times a month. I said, okay, so let's do this. At the beginning of each month, take a calendar and mark on the calendar all of the dates on the calendar that are special to someone else. Your kids' birthdays, your mother's birthday, your father's birthday, your wedding anniversary, your parents' wedding anniversary, all of the special dates on the calendar where somebody else has something to celebrate, and only have a honey bun on a day that you could celebrate somebody else's joy.
When it's come to families like us, we can do it every day.
Every day of the month.
Amazing.
I didn't tell him that.
Amazing.
I didn't tell him that I was giving him a bigger challenge than I was giving myself.
So that basically means
Give,
step away from selfishness.
yeah.
Who says the godliness in that other person is more important than mine? Why would I say like
Nah.
how can? So why would I put it on
It's not
somebody
a-
else? How can I just?
It's just
Like-
because you not put it on yourself. That's the idea.
But I
It's that-
celebrate the godliness in.
It's that there's nothing wrong with having, my point is, there's nothing wrong with having a physical pleasure. The point is to have a physical pleasure focused on something greater than yourself. Even when you're doing something that's somewhat self-focused, try to steer the focus away from you, just to get yourself used to thinking about other people, even when you're being a little bit selfish. Now, I'm not suggesting that the ideal thing is to have a honey bun every time somebody has a birthday. That wasn't what I was telling him. I was telling him that you work yourself away from your selfishness by directing even your selfish behaviors away from yourself to whatever extent possible. And it's baby steps away from self-centeredness.
They say like be good to others as God's good to you, basically. Like
Yeah.
Nadiv, Rahum, Hanun.
Mahura Chuma, Fatah, yeah, hey, Chanun, right. Yeah, so you emulate his ways. So that was the conclusion of the last few chapters. And then the Alter Rebbe says at the beginning of chapter 32, if you really understand this idea, then you will also be able to use this same idea of elevating the soul over the body and the animal instinct. You can use that as a surefire way of fulfilling the mitzvah of loving your fellow Jew as yourself. And he went through an elaborate explanation of what exactly loving your fellow Jew as yourself means. He said that there are two different kinds of love. There's a kind of love that is intrinsic, and there's a kind of love that is a response to an intelligent conclusion. The way you love yourself is intrinsic. You don't need to be convinced. You don't need to be told. You don't need to find any virtue in yourself. You don't need to find any reason to love yourself. You just love yourself. And even, like we said last time, even people who hate themselves have no problem loving themselves at the same time. And
They hate themselves because they love themselves.
maybe. And then the other kind of love is how you love somebody else. The way we love others is that we find virtue in them, and we rationalize, we decide, we conclude that because this person has this virtue, they deserve my love. And then we come to love them, which means the more virtue we find in them, the more value or the more beauty or the more impressive we find them, the more we love them. The less impressive we find them, the less we love them. So if you can focus entirely on the neshama and not on the body, not on the human, then you can love the other for the same reason you love yourself. Not because of any virtue that you find, but for the fact that this is you, because our souls are all one. There is no separation in souls. The separation between us is only physical, not in the divine spark. So if you can recognize the divine spark as being, as the neshama as being the true identity of the individual, just like it's the true identity of yourself, then by definition, you love the other just like you love yourself. That's now what he's going to discuss today is an interesting dilemma, which is that the Talmud says that there is actually, hate. Hate sounds nasty, but hate was actually created for a reason. The Talmud says there are times when you're actually supposed to hate somebody. If they're sinful, you're supposed to hate them.
You're supposed to hate them or what they're doing?
Them.
Them?
Them.
But you should not judge.
It's a good question. So why does the Talmud say that? That's what the Alter Rebbe is going to ask.
And we also spoke about it.
Yeah, right. We talked about in chapter 29, chapter 30 about not judging. How you can't judge another person until you've been in their place. So how can you hate them if you're not supposed to ever judge them, right? So that this is all part of what he's going to talk about. So that's where we're up to in chapter 32. Misha roa b'chaveroi. You see the
It's in the bottom of 146.
bottom of 146. That which it says in the Talmud, that which the Gemara says, that someone who sees that his friend has sinned, it's a mitzvah to hate them.
Mhm.
You see that spot? That's where we're up to. But before we do that, I just want to point out the really, really powerful line right at the beginning. I'm sorry, a couple of however many lines earlier where it says, the Alter Rebbe explained how Hillel said that the mitzvah to love your fellow Jew as yourself is actually the entire Torah. The rest is just commentary. And he explained that the reason for that is because you have this line here that says, Ki yesoid v'shoresh kol ha'torahu, the foundation and the source, the root of the entire Torah is lehagbia, to lift up, ulehalos, and to elevate haneshama, the soul, al haguf, above the body, maila, level after level. Ad ikra v'shorsha de kolalman, all the way to the source, the root of all worlds. Which means the bottom line of the entire Torah is to put the soul ahead of the body. So I just wanted to reiterate that line, and before we go on to, let me give me one more second before I continue.
פנקי לי את הילד. אותו כולו חיוור. אני גם שרוב, אני גם כן
Give you just enough time to have a rugula, a honey bun. Everybody have a honey bun?
When's your birthday?
Not today.
No, today is the birthday of Mendy, no?
Today is not Mendy. Today is
One
David's
of the
birthday.
Mendys.
No, today is David's birthday.
So we're having
We're having a honey bun in honor of a rugula in honor of David's birthday.
There we go.
Mazal tov.
Not in honor of my mouth.
Right.
Another thing, we're doing.
Umasha kosa b'gemara, that which it says in the Talmud, Shemisha roi b'chavere shechata mitzvah l'sanoisoi. The Talmud says, the tractate of Pesachim. I wonder why it's in that tractate. That someone who sees their friend, has sinned, then it's a mitzvah to hate them, the Gemara says. V'gam lo yimer l'rabbai sheyisne'enu, and also to go to that guy's teacher and tell the teacher, you have to hate him also because he's not following your instruction. He's sinful. The Alter Rebbe explains, Hainu, this is only bechaveiroi b'toiro mitzvahs. The Talmud explicitly says, one who sees his friend sinning, it's a mitzvah to hate them. Not anybody. What does it mean to see your friend sinning? It means chaveiroi b'toiro u'mitzvahs. Your friend, someone who is your equal, someone who is your peer in your observance of Torah, your study of Torah, and your observance of mitzvah.
But how you know that you even with them if you cannot judge?
Good question. But if you have
You cannot, that even a tzaddik who cannot know that it's tzaddik.
But you can see them. You can see them sinning.
I
You
can
can
see
see
the
a person
sinning,
sin.
but I cannot see that I equal with them. Maybe I worse, maybe I
If the
better.
person studies Torah with you and does the same mitzvahs as you, the Talmud is not talking about the spiritual side. Well, the way the
When
Alter
it's
Rebbe-
come to it, I can judge like what I see.
So let's say I see somebody drives in Shabbat. Happens to be Shneim Stam. And then
we haven't even gotten 3 lines in. You already have all the questions. Let's see if he answers the questions.
Heavy line,
Chances are
you know.
he's being provocative.
You must to hate him.
Yeah,
Heavy.
that line was written 2,000 years ago. Where have you been? Should have read that 2,000 years ago. You wouldn't be asking the question now.
Well-
No, listen to what he's going to say. He's going to ask some good questions about this. One of the answers, very briefly, to what you're asking is the Talmud itself says, halacha says, that somebody who studies Torah properly cannot use ignorance as a defense. You know, what are you doing? Whatever, you know, lighting a fire on Shabbos. Oh, I didn't know. I'm not allowed to. Come on, you study Torah all the time. You should have known. So just like it says that for the ignorant person, their intentional sins are essentially considered by Hashem to be unintentional sins because they just don't understand the importance of a mitzvah or whatever. The same is true in the opposite for someone who does study a lot of Torah, that their unintentional sins are judged by God as if they were intentional sins, because ignorance is not a defense. Ignorance, there's an expression like that, right? Ignorance is
Bliss.
Huh?
the other one,
Ignorance is no excuse for wrong.
something like that. Yeah.
Bad.
So first of all, it has to be Hainu b'chaveda b'Torah b'mitzvahs. It has to be someone who is your peer in Torah study and in the performance of mitzvahs. That's first of all. Second of all, ukvar kiyem by mitzvahs. You've already fulfilled the mitzvah of rebuking, reminding your friend who's doing wrong. You have to rebuke them and correct them.
Just to say them that it's wrong, or
No.
you need to hear from them like.
Yeah, the Talmud, the halacha has a whole set of instructions about how to do it. You have to do it at least 3 times, and you have to do it first peacefully, and then you have to do it more severely. There's a whole set of instructions. You
No,
have
but
to
I
really-
need to answer you. For example, I see
No,
someone
that's
drove
not
on
true.
Shabbat,
No, that's-
and I ask him once, don't drive. Like 3 times, he need to answer me, baby, drive to take someone to the hospital or whatever. I don't
No.
know it.
No,
So-
that's where he has to answer
so-
you. That's with regards to giving hasra, giving warning before a person could be punished by the bedin, by the courts. We're not talking about that. We're talking about your obligation. If you see somebody sinning, and you know that they're a friend of yours and they'll listen to you, if you talk to them, you're supposed to tell them what you're doing is wrong. You're not allowed to do that. And if they ignore you 3 times, then. So here the Alter Rebbe is saying the mitzvah to hate the sinner is, first of all, if it's a sinner who you know knows at least as much Torah as you do and is generally as observant of mitzvahs as you are. And second of all, you've already gone through the whole process of rebuking them and telling them off for doing the wrong thing. So we know it's not by accident because you were clear with them and they heard what you said. So then you can, in that scenario, there's a mitzvah to hate them because you know for sure that what they're doing is the hachis. To spite. It's intentional and spiteful.
But we just said nobody in Russian.
So you said
Wait.
When you told them 3 times, then
They said bug off.
then you hate them. You hate them.
Maybe. We haven't finished the conversation yet. Yeah.
Or you hate them or
Right.
reject them or tell them about them.
Right.
or-
You're supposed to hate them. But let's see what he says.
What if you see this person do this all the time and you can't get, are you talking about Hasra or whatever? Or
If
like-
you see him doing it all the time, then it's not your peer in observance of Torah and mitzvahs. You're talking about somebody who normally is observant
and
of
you
the
just saw
mitzvahs.
them do like one Avera or something, you're like, okay, and what if you saw them do it, but you, for whatever reason, they didn't see you there, right? Are you allowed to go tell your teacher that they committed this sin?
You're supposed to hate them and tell their teacher to hate them.
tell their
I believe
teacher.
that's what it means. Yeah.
But it's more in the levels of you and Menachem.
That's how the Pashkevil start, no?
Yeah.
Like you. You know.
He's putting it all on me. Put me up on a pedestal so when I fall, I shatter into a million pieces. That's always a good idea. Be surprised. Anything up on a pedestal is very fragile when it falls. Be careful what you put up on a pedestal. Okay,
This is the part of the Torah where the Pashkevel came from.
maybe.
That's what they got their legitimizer.
Yeah, so let's try to get through it and see if we can hear what he's trying to say. So again, that which it says in the Talmud that if you see your friend sinning, you're supposed to hate them. And also tell his teacher to hate him. That's only when it's your friend, meaning your peer in Torah and mitzvahs. And you've already fulfilled your obligation to rebuke your fellow. And when it says the mitzvah to rebuke, the Torah says, Hocheach tochiach, you will surely rebuke et amitecha, your fellow. What is amitecha?
Your friend.
Am sheitcha b'Torah mitzvahs. That kind of person who is, again, on that same level as you in Torah and mitzvahs. And ve'afal pekein le'shav mechatoi. And then, even though you've corrected them and he has not changed his ways, that's what the Talmud is talking about. Which goes with Sefer Haredim, as it is explained in this book called Sefer Haredim. Avo misha einoi chaveroi, but someone who is not your friend, in other words, not your peer, ve'einoi mikurev etzloi, and also is not close to you not in a spiritual sense, but in a human sense. So he's not your friend in a spiritual sense, meaning he's not a peer. You have no reason to assume that he is knowledgeable of Torah or committed to mitzvahs. And you don't have any particularly close relationship with this individual. With regard to this scenario, Hillel HaZaken says, Hevei mitalmidav shel Aharon, best be like the students of Aaron the high priest, Ohev shalom, love peace, etc. Love peace and pursue peace, right? Ohev es habriyos u'mekarvan la'Torah, love all of God's creations and bring them close to Torah. Loimar, this means to say, she'af ha'rechoikim b'Toras Hashem v'avedasa, even those who are very distant from God's Torah and the service of God, v'lachein, and therefore nekroim b'shem briyos ba'alma, that's why the Mishnah refers to them as creations. So you have to draw them in with the thick ropes of love. Maybe you'll be able to draw them closer to Torah and serving Hashem. What does it mean that they're called creations? We're talking about somebody who is so lacking in virtue that the best compliment you can give him is he was created by God, which means you got nothing else to compliment this guy with. Even that kind of a person, you're supposed to try to draw them in, bring them closer to Torah. That's what Aaron HaKohen did. That's what the Mishnah says to do. That's what Hillel HaZaken said. You find somebody who is so distant from Torah, you're supposed to try to bring them in out of love.
The difference between calling somebody created by God and a gift of God.
Yes.
There is the story of not remember who rabbi, that also come to someone and tell him that he's super ugly. Then you tell him, yeah, go.
Coming up.
Oh, no spoilers.
The story that he's referring to is that in the Gemara, that one of the sages was walking down the street and he saw an exceptionally ugly individual, and he said to the guy, "You are exceptionally ugly."
Thank you.
זו בריאה מכוערת, משהו כזה.
Right.
איך בבראה, וואי, נכון, זה מכל סוף חכמנו.
Yeah.
יש את הציור של הקומיקס של זה בראש.
And what's the punchline in the children's books?
Go to the...
Let's
go
go
to
on.
money maker,
Right.
ask him why he makes
Go-
כלי מכוער או משהו כזה.
Right, you're such an incredibly ugly creature. Are all the people from your town as ugly as you are? So he said, "What are you complaining to me for? Go to the craftsman who made me." And that's the story. The story is he was saying, "Don't see my ugliness. There is a little virtue in me, the fact that I was made by God. Don't ignore that." That's one of the ways of understanding the story. But that's what he's saying here. He's saying even somebody who has no claim to fame other than I was made by God, so I can't be totally useless. Even that person, you're supposed to draw them in with the thick ropes of love. That's how you're supposed to draw people in. The chevle avoises ava. So if you ever find yourself browsing online and you find these rabbis who spout hellfire and brimstone to try to get people to do teshuvah, change the channel. That's not chevle avoisai sahava. It's not the thick ropes of love that they're drawing you in with. So, v'hein loi. Now, what if you don't manage to draw them in with your thick ropes of love? What if they don't respond to your loving gestures? V'hein loi, and if not, loi hifsid schar mitzvahs avas reim. You haven't lost the opportunity to do the mitzvah of loving your fellow.
Mhm.
So even if you fail, you've succeeded. You've succeeded in doing the mitzvah of loving your fellow Jew.
So you, even if you can't hate them, why hate them to begin?
You're not supposed to hate them because they're not the person who is your equal in Torah and your equal in mitzvahs, and you haven't yet succeeded in rebuking them properly because they're not available to hearing you. So this is not the individual that the Talmud says you're supposed to hate.
What happened to being in control of our feelings? Why is hate suddenly something that's valid?
You're in control of your feelings. The
Some
Torah is
control
telling
of
you
hate.
the Torah is telling you when to use hate. You're supposed to mitzvah listen also. If you see somebody sinning in a particular context, in a particular circumstance, you have a mitzvah to hate them, which means you have to be very much in control of your feelings. You have to turn on the hate.
How much should you hate them though?
On a scale of 1 to 10?
What
Like
point?
really just.
On a scale of 1
What
to
is
10?
sin?
Because you see somebody out of like this kindness, somebody just murdered the father next to his kid because he was not there, were not agreeing on something, and he was 100% sure.
What is
I mean,
what's
it's
the amount
typo,
of
but-
hate that is necessary?
Can you scream, I hate you at them or like, I hate you. You're ruining my life.
I think we should have a chat session.
Yeah.
In addition to the
Around that
Tanya class.
specific.
No, we'll get to the end of the chapter. He'll explain what he's saying.
No more questions, Your Honor.
What
Uh, There's a fascinating set of laws in the Torah about the ben sorer umoreh, the wayward, rebellious child. And the Torah says, if the child is rebellious and guzzles your wine and steals your meat and eats everything you have in the freezer, then you're supposed to take the kid to the court and say, our son is a rebellious child, and the courts will find him guilty and you'll stone him to death.
Lovely.
Lovely story, right? So,
no?
Deuteronomy, your local Bible. The point is, the Talmud says that this has never happened, and nor will it ever happen. Hold on, what's the
Then why
point?
is there?
Why is
Isn't
it
that like
there?
one opinion though? Isn't there somebody that said
Yeah.
it did happen?
Yeah, but
Because
why is it
the
there
kids
if it
that
never
have
happened?
food and they all the time eating and drinking have a good life
For
and
the
they not
proportion.
trying to be ben sorer umoreh.
So all the parents get to this
Exactly.
this chapter of Bible and they say, oh, there's no reason to complain so bad.
So the answer is, I heard, I think my father said this once. He says, the mitzvah is there to save children from their religious parents. Because if you're so religious that you're so angry at your child for being rebellious that you're willing to kill him, the Torah says, bring him to the court. We'll take care of it.
That's funny.
And that's why it has never happened. Because every time somebody brought their kid to the court said, yeah, bring him here, we'll take him. Put him in child protective services from his maniacal parents. Nobody's bad enough to be stoned to death for drinking too much wine. Come on. Yep. Anyway, so
I mean, I see people.
Now, for
stone-
drinking wine specifically.
stoned to death. Not just stoned.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, and
I
that
missed the whole
happens
point.
from the wine. The wine itself is the punishment.
Okay, let's get back to Tanya. Let's see if we can get through 2, 3 lines maybe this time.
What?
So you're not supposed to hate anybody who sins. The mitzvah to hate the sinner is specifically somebody who you know for a fact is not doing this out of ignorance or out of mitigating circumstances. He knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly why it's wrong, and he's doing it just to thumb his nose at God. Has anybody ever been in that situation? No. Now, What about somebody who's not in that situation? You're supposed to draw them in with the thick ropes of love and try to bring them closer to Torah to whatever extent you can. And if you fail, you've still succeeded because you fulfilled the mitzvah of loving your fellow Jew. Now, another point. What about that guy? What about that guy you are close with him, he is your friend, and you rebuked him and tried to tell him off, and you rebuked him, and they have not returned, they have not returned, they have not done tshuva for their sins. That's where the mitzvah to hate them comes up. So what do you do then?
Hate them.
You hate them. But mitzvah la'ahavam gamkein. The fact that you have a mitzvah to hate them does not cancel your mitzvah to love them. You have to love them.
Still craft of God.
You have to continue to love them even while you hate them.
How do you do that?
You were hoping for an excuse to hate.
No,
No?
I think it's actually kind of hard to do in that situation. If they're your peer and you have these expectations and they do this thing and you know them so well, I think like that's actually harder to do than hate somebody you know that.
Yeah? Or
Can I
not.
answer you on the question of how much to hate them? You love them, but you hate them for sinning.
Stone them to death? Is that no?
No, that's not what we're talking about. Just hate them.
Sounds like a Jewish mother. I love you, I love you.
You remember, if you're trying to figure out how to hate somebody and love them at the same time, remember what I said right in our introduction tonight. Even people who hate themselves, love themselves too much. We do it all the time. We all know how to love and hate at the same time. We love the individual because of the good that they present, and we hate them for the negative that they present. It's not complicated. We do it all the time. It sounds sophisticated. Oh, how do I do that? How can I love them and hate them at the same time? Please think about it for a minute. You'll realize you do it all the time. You have all kinds of love-hate relationships.
Oh yes.
We do it all the time. So the Torah is saying, here you're obligated to do it intentionally. And we're like, oh my God, intentionally? How do I do that? Well, if you can do it unintentionally, you can do it intentionally. So, ushtehen emes, and they're both true. Sina mitzad harasha b'hem, you're supposed to hate them for the evil in them. Ve'ava mitzad b'chinas hatoiv hagonusha b'hem, and the love you have for the good that's in them, even if it's hidden, even if it's buried. What is the good in them? Shehu nitzutz elikusha b'soicham, that's the spark of God within them, hamachaya nafsham alikis, which gives life to their godly soul. If you want to judge yourself, you want to be honest with yourself. Remember earlier in Tanya, we talked about how the Beinoni, or more so the Tzaddik, is someone who despises evil, right? He despises the bad. How do you come to despise evil? Evil can be a lot of fun sometimes. Evil can feel really good sometimes. How do you hate evil?
When it's against you,
That's more evil.
when it's against God.
You hate evil when you love God.
Exactly. That's what he said in Tanya earlier on. Your hatred for evil will be directly measure for with your love for God. The more you love God, the more you hate evil. The more you love evil, the less you love God.
Is evil in the creation of God?
Yes,
So why would you hate one of God's creations?
because he created it to distract. Remember, we had the example of the king who sends the prostitute to tempt his son. That's the analogy, that Hashem created distractions to tempt you to choose your own pleasure over him. But the point is,
You can't hate God for creating evil because you're not peers with God.
we're not talking about hating God. We're talking about hating the evil.
Right. But you were talking about having issues with peers who hate your things.
Hashem isn't your peer.
That's what
Then we're in violent agreement.
violent agreement.
Yeah, I didn't follow your point, but if we're agreeing, that's great.
When it's appropriate to hate and you're not.
You
It's only when
hate-
you're on the same, when it's your peer, you're.
When it's your peer,
Yeah,
when it's your peer and they've sinned
yes.
and you've rebuked them and they've demonstrated the fact that they're doing this intentionally and rebelliously, then you hate them.
What if they're greater than you though? They're not your peer, they're even on a higher level.
Like it's like mayor.
That's something that you cannot know.
Name?
Mayor, a mayor.
I think I'm paying
Like a
the highest
horse.
person.
Of course.
Sorry.
The point is that if you find yourself tempted to hate somebody for their sin, you could feel pious in that. You feel, what, yeah, I hate this guy. You know what he did? He cheated on his wife. You know what this guy did? He cheated on his taxes. Not sure which is worse.
She did her
Yeah.
wife's taxes.
Touche. So the question is, why are you so gung ho about hating this guy for his transgressions? Are you really that pious? Is that really what's bothering you? You're really, with the story in Torah with Pinchas when he was zealous for God and he saved the day and saved the Jewish people. Are you really being zealous for God in your anger about this other person's transgressions? How do you know? Maybe you're just an angry guy.
Yeah, like all these people who burning garbage cans in Mea Shearim.
Yeah. So somebody once
All of those
complained.
people here on the bridge.
Somebody once complained to the previous Rebbe that it seems inappropriate that the Rebbe is giving so much attention to people who are very sinful. They shouldn't be getting so much attention. They should be being rebuked and they should be told off, and etc. So the Rebbe said, the laws in Torah that you're referring to about the sinner and how to treat the sinner, that's all the way in the end of like the third, fourth volume of the Shulchan Aruch. Have you already mastered all the laws that come before that you... Question is, that's a cute answer, but you're changing the subject. The fact is, you're supposed to treat them, you're supposed to force them to return to do teshuvah. Why are you being so nice to them? Whether I fulfill the mitzvah of, putting on my tzitzis in the morning, what does that have to do with whether you're supposed to be being nice to these people or not? Don't change the subject. Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Rebbe, wasn't changing the subject. He was trying to educate them. He was saying, look, the reason you don't understand why I'm being so good to these people is because you're bothered by this particular issue while ignoring a lot of the laws that come before it, which is an indication of the fact that what bothers you about this scenario is not, in fact, the godly issue here. You're not really bothered by the fact that they don't fulfill mitzvahs. You're bothered by the fact that they're not like you or some other issue. But you're not really bothered by the fact that God is disappointed with them. If you were really bothered by the fact that God is disappointed by somebody that doesn't fulfill the mitzvahs, you would be an expert in all the mitzvahs that came before it. The fact that you're not an expert in all the mitzvahs that come in volume 1 and volume 2 and volume 3 of the Code of Jewish Law is a perfect illustration of the fact that when you do get upset about something, it's not about God. So back off. Learn to love your fellow Jew. Essentially, that's what the previous was telling him. So the same thing is what we're saying here. You want to know if, maybe I'm supposed to hate this guy because he's a sinner. Well, let's see. Do a little internal stock taking. Do a little introspection and see, is this coming from your great love for God? Or is there something else behind your sudden need to observe the mitzvah? In this case, hating your neighbor. Why all of a sudden are you being so diligent and pious about this particular mitzvah? Maybe it's because you have a hateful nature and because you're an Orthodox Jew, you're looking for an outlet, a righteous outlet for your negative character trait. Guilty as charged in most cases. I mean, that's why we do what we do, because we're human and we're fickle and we're frail spiritually, and that's what we do. We use our spiritual opportunities to justify our human weaknesses. That's not service of God. So if you're using a lousy character trait to justify doing a mitzvah, the mitzvah of giving charity, you want to be honored for your piety and your magnanimous nature, so you give charity to get your name up on the wall. In that case, keep doing it. It's okay. Keep doing it. It's benefiting others. Go ahead. Maybe someday you'll end up doing it for the right reason. But you're going to hate your fellow Jew? No. Can't do that. You can't keep doing a mitzvah for the wrong reason because eventually you do it for the right reason if it's at the expense of a fellow Jew. That's not cool. We say continue doing a mitzvah for the wrong reason because eventually you'll do it for the right reason because the mitzvah you're doing has a positive effect. It's like the question about when are you supposed to hate your fellow Jew? Only if they're your peer in Torah and in observance of mitzvahs and you've rebuked them, right? Which I remember what this thought was. It was a great idea, great thought, and now I can't remember it. We need a little musical interlude here while I figure this out. This is too good to not remember. I know I could count on you. Oh, this is a good line.
Let it go. So come
It
back
was
later.
taken from you for a reason.
Yes, because of Bobby. Bobby doesn't deserve to hear
All
We should
right, we'll keep going and hopefully I remember it.
Chiquita.
Texas.
Okay, shitting wife taxes, that's where we want it, yeah.
Run, no.
That was the
doing it.
conditions of hating.
No, it's about doing it for the right reason.
They have to be on your same level. You can't beat them.
And you can't
Yeah.
hate those who are greater. But you're soon gonna find out everybody's.
Talking about hate and love on the same time.
No, it was about, there's another opinion about why you should hate this. Oh, yeah. There's an opinion that says that the reason you're supposed to hate the sinner is because it's specifically talking about somebody, like he said, somebody who you're close with, right? So if it's somebody you're close with and they sin, then you have to hate them. Why? Because if you don't,
You give them legitimacy.
they will rub off on you and you'll end up becoming like them, becoming sinful like them. It's logical. The Rebbe absolutely,
One bad apple in the box.
the Rebbe rejected that opinion completely.
That's why he brought more sinful people around. Because he wanted to-
No,
I
the
think
Rebbe-
it's very-
listen to this. Listen to the Rebbe's logic here. The Rebbe says, what you're suggesting, this other opinion, he says, what this other opinion is suggesting is that this person does not in fact deserve to be hated. The reason you should hate them is to protect yourself from becoming like them. You're saying you're supposed to hate your fellow Jew to protect yourself? Who could ever fathom that there would be a mitzvah in Torah like that? Protect yourself by hating your fellow Jew. That's completely out of the question.
Yeah, I
Who
thought
said
it
that
was
opinion?
hate.
You feel betrayed.
But that's about you. You're serving God. You're not serving you. How could you say that I'm going to hate you just to protect myself from becoming? Don't hate your fellow Jew. The Mishnah says, distance yourself from a bad neighbor. Okay, if you're afraid he's going to rub off on you, so distance yourself, walk away. Hate them? Hate your fellow Jew because you need to defend yourself? So to the Rebbe, that notion is like so completely out of the question. See, I'm pointing out the magnificence of the Hasidic approach to Torah and to Jews. You're telling me that I should hate somebody else just to defend me? That's asinine. I'm not going to hate somebody else because it's what's good for me. That's narcissism. Anyway, so the Alter Rebbe has a better explanation here, which of course we go with. It will be repossessed by the local authorities. Okay, we did that already. So somebody who is close with you, and you're supposed to hate them, you're supposed to love them at the same time, right? Oh, another amazing point I have to share with you. The Baal Shem Tov says that your fellow Jew is a mirror. Is God putting a mirror in front of you, which means when you see something negative in your fellow Jew,
You see me.
you're supposed to find that in yourself. You should know that it's a reflection of your own.
Who say that?
Baal Shem Tov.
It's in Tanya or like
No, it's Baal Shem Tov.
just Tanya?
Baal Shem Tov is 2 generations before the Alter Rebbe, but this is the Baal Shem Tov's teaching. A number of his students repeated this in his name.
It's very interesting. It's in NLP, like a big law.
Now you know where they got it from.
What?
But here's the question. It's a nice idea, but isn't it a little goofy? I mean, you're seeing somebody else is a bank robber. I don't rob banks. What are you talking about? That guy, murdered his boss. I don't do that.
Yes.
So, not yet. I would never do that. It's not within my realm of possibilities. There's no way I could commit a sin like what they did, right? So how is it possible that a tzaddik, the purely righteous, don't see evil in others? What are you talking about? What are they, blind? Not only is it hard to believe, but the fact is you have plenty of stories of the purely righteous, the tzaddikim, who find the flaws in others and correct them. How can you correct somebody's mistakes if you don't see anything wrong in another person? So the whole thing desperately needs explanation. But to say anything you see negative in somebody else, it's really about you. Yeah, it sounds new agey and beautiful, but it's not real. You see a flaw in another person, you're seeing it in them, not in you.
The fact that you are able to see it and recognize it.
The fact that you're able to see it as evil. When we say that a tzaddik doesn't see evil in another person, what that means is that when the tzaddik sees evil in another person, what he perceives is there's work to do. There's a correction that needs to be made. With the other person. But he doesn't see the evil in the other person. He just sees there's a mitzvah to do here. Help this person do tshuva.
Last half.
Not.
First half full.
Now, this is actually in Torah. This is actually in Torah itself. It says, by the story of Noah after the flood, it says that he got drunk and his son, Ham, came into his tent and saw him laying naked in the tent. So he went out to his brothers, Shem and Yafet, and said, "Oh, our father's a lousy drunk. He's sprawled out naked in the tent." So his 2 brothers went into the tent, and they walked in backwards, so they didn't see their father. And with their backs to their father, they covered him, and they did not see his nakedness. So it repeats twice. It says that they walked in backwards, and then it says they covered him, and they didn't see. Well, if they walked in backwards, we know they didn't see his nakedness. Why does the Torah repeat that? The answer is because the Torah is telling us 2 different things. The Torah is telling us that they walked in backwards, so they didn't see him naked. And they didn't see his nakedness, which means they didn't, in the whole story, the reason that they treated it differently from their brother is that they didn't see his problem. They saw a problem that needed fixing. They didn't put it on him. They didn't see his ugliness. They saw an opportunity to do something, to take corrective measures. They saw a call to action. They didn't see his ugliness. So when the Baal Shem Tov says, if you see ugliness in someone else, it's a reflection of yours, it doesn't mean that if you see that guy being a bank robber, that means that really deep down you have a suppressed desire to rob banks. That's not what it means. It means the reason that when you see that guy doing something wrong, you judge that person as being a bad person, it's because you have some bad in you also, and that's why you don't just see an opportunity to do something to make things better. You see something wrong with the individual. The fact that when you see someone doing something wrong, you label them by their mistake, that's because you identify by the unholiness in yourself. To the extent that you identify with the unholiness in you, you will label others as unholy. And that's why a tzaddik doesn't see unholiness, doesn't see negative in another person. Not they don't see their mistakes, they see their mistakes. They just don't identify the person with their mistakes. When they see a mistake, to them it translates as a call to action.
So when you do that, you basically don't have Lashon Hara to talk about.
Right.
Like not even in the mind.
Exactly. Which is probably why in the Orthodox world, there's this huge campaign anti-Lashon Hara. Stop people from speaking evil. Chabad never got into it. The Rebbes never participated in that campaign. And the question is why? Are you so in favor of speaking Lashon Hara that you... The answer is because the Rebbes and the Mashpiyim, the teachers of Chassidus, always said, what do you mean you have a mind, your mind is full of all kinds of horrible things about other people, but you won't say it?
It's very
That's not a
tempting to
yeah.
talk about other people.
What's better is don't have negative thoughts about other people, so you have nothing to say. You shouldn't be, if you're going to put up a big fight, don't put up a big fight with your mouth to not speak the evil. Put up a big fight with your mind to not think the evil. Why are you only putting up the fight at your expression point? Why not put up your fight at your thought process?
How come Chafetz Chaim wasn't talking about that? Like it's only about the from when it comes to the mouth out.
Didn't study Chassidut. I don't know. I'm not saying that facetiously. I have no idea.
I remember when I grew up, they told us every generation has its own temptation, sin, just like they had Avodah Zarah. Lashon Hara is ours,
Right.
and it's a big one. But really, when
I don't think it's a new issue. I think that the biggest temptation for this generation is machloket.
Is what?
Machloket is
and that's what makes it bigger.
discord between Jews, infighting between Jews.
But it's also the Lashon Hara, because today with the
Yeah, that's the
social
reason.
media, everybody just throw everything they think about everybody.
Yeah,
And
Lashon Hara is a symptom of the machloket.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, but that's what all of the problems that we have today in the Jewish world can be traced back to infighting. Gotta stop with the infighting.
So
Yeah, but that guy's not as religious as he should be. That guy isn't as, that guy wears the kind of kippah that, stop it.
everything is because of Bobby.
Everything is
I was
because of
gonna
people.
So what about hating the evil person because it will gain his awareness not to be so evil?
You don't have to hate them for that. You can feign hatred. You can shout at them. You can whatever. You can tell them off. You don't have to actually hate. The mitzvah to hate means to actually feel hatred for the person. That's a very, very stiff.
To extend to the awareness of the person who's.
No,
Oh, so it's just
your mitzvah. Yeah,
It's your mitzvah, so you don't include the.
right.
Okay.
But we haven't completed the thought, the concept of. We're going to get to it. It gets better, I assure you. So they're both true. You're supposed to love them and hate them at the same time, right? If you find yourself in a scenario, the almost impossible scenario of actually having the mitzvah to hate your fellow Jew because of their sins and their intentional sins and their refusal to do teshuvah even after rebuking them, you have to hate them. But at the same time, you're not exempt from loving them, and you have to do both at the same time. Love them because of the good in them and hate them because of the bad in them. And then he says, V'gam, and also, La'oire rachamim belibo yoleha, to awaken, to inspire in yourself mercy on that person's soul. Remember, we said, when the person is sinning, the soul is in exile because the soul wants godliness. And now the soul is being dragged through the mud in sinful behavior. So you have to feel bad for the person's soul because it's in exile. Exiled into the evil that is overpowering in this particular individual, like it is in all wicked people. And that mercy that you find, that you develop in yourself, it will cancel out the hatred, and it will reawaken love. So if you hate the person properly, while loving them at the same time, it will cause you to feel mercy for the person, and that mercy will cancel out the hatred, so you're back to being friends again.
He's still doing the same sin, so
So you go back to the Chevlei Avotot Ahava and try to bring them back in with the love again. Now that the love is reawakened and is stronger now,
so
try that
after
again.
I did all this process, I hate him and I mercy and all that, he still continue with his sin.
Do it again.
So,
You and a
So
lot of
again and again and again. Why, it's a lot of work of sin.
Wait, we're not done yet. There are a
Yeah,
few
you
more
start
important
there.
points here. Let's not fall off the wagon
What
yet.
I start.
Kabbalistically speaking, this verse from Isaiah, L'Yaakov asher padas Avram, it says, Yaakov who redeemed Avraham. Anybody want to take a guess at what that means? L'Yaakov asher padat Avraham. How did Yaakov redeem Avraham? Remember the three forefathers, F-O-R-E, forefathers. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov are the personifications of kindness, discipline, and mercy. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Avraham is kindness. Avraham gets canceled out by Yitzchak, by severity, by discipline. And it gets redeemed by mercy, which is Yaakov. What we just studied is this loop is a perfect illustration of that process of Yaakov redeeming Avraham, of mercy redeeming love from being tamped down by severity, by discipline. So you have a mitzvah to hate. Well, if I have a mitzvah to hate, what about my mitzvah to love? You got to do that at the same time. This cognitive dissonance that I'm having will cause me to feel mercy for the person. The mercy will then inspire a kind of compassion that will cancel out the hatred, and we're back to the love again. So I come back to trying to draw them in with even thicker ropes of love. And if that doesn't work, then I hate them. And the hate just comes together with the love. And then the hate and love together causes me to feel compassion. And the compassion cancels out the hatred. So I'm back to loving again on a higher, deeper level of love. So it's like this, you keep growing in your love until you finally succeed to draw them in with your love.
So no graffiti on their car.
What?
We draw the line at toilet paper in their trees. Past that.
That's the most vandalism we can get.
Now, one more very, very fascinating point. In the parentheses, which the Alter Rebbe put these parentheses in there, so they have to be relevant, right? Remember, we talked about how incredibly meticulous the Alter Rebbe was. V'loi Omar David HaMelech Alav Hashalom Tachlis Sino Senesim. In Psalms, King David says, with the epitome of hatred, I hate them. Who is he talking about? What is the epitome of hatred? Hatred with no love to redeem it. No love to be redeemed. This is just pure hate, not love-hate relationship.
The ones that don't have any godly in them.
Ela al haminim v'ha'apikursim. That's only talking about the the heretics and the blasphemers, and the heretics, she'ein lahem chelek b'elokei Yisrael, who have no portion in the God of Israel. Kedisa b'Gemara Reish Perek Tezayin de Shabbos.
So you can
Hold on,
read
hold on.
their code.
Hold on,
Wait.
You should.
hold on, hold on. Why is this in parentheses? If he's saying there's an exception to the rule, just tell us that there's an exception to the rule. Why is it in parentheses? The answer is, he's not giving you an exception to the rule. He's saying, and I know what you're thinking because you're a Torah scholar and you read Psalms and you know that King David says, I have ultimate hatred for some people. So doesn't that mean that there's an exception to the rule? And the Rebbe says, not so fast. First of all, we're talking about David HaMelech, David the king. Because remember what we said before about don't just go around judging people because it's probably just coming from a nasty personality trait in yourself. You're just a judgmental type of person, only you've cloaked it in your piety. So what are you doing running around finding people to hate? Why is this your passion? If you're in a position where your job mandates that you judge people, then you will find people who need to be hated. But if you're not in a position to be judging people, why are you going around looking for people's flaws? You see, David HaMelech, in those days, the Jewish kings were the judges. So David HaMelech, who was the first and the first king of the house of Judah, and he was the one of the greatest kings in the Jewish people ever had, which means he's also one of the greatest judges the Jewish people ever had. He was judging people because that was his job, not because he wanted to, not because it was his personality. He was a shepherd who wanted to play songs out in the hills with his sheep. God appointed him king, so he had to do this. But it wasn't his personality. It was very different from his personality. That's why he wrote about it in a song, because it's like it was like journaling. I can't believe I have to do this. I have to hate people, but it's my job. That's what I have to do. And I found people who are so completely distant from God that any goodness in them is completely buried and irredeemable.
But it was.
What are the chances of finding somebody? What are the chances that you or I are going to find somebody like that? Zero. And even if we did, it's not our job. So he's saying in parentheses, when you read in Psalms that King David had ultimate hatred for the truly wicked, don't take that as an instruction for you. That's not for you. That's to tell you that the truly pious, the holy tzaddikim, the saintly people who are tasked with those of them who are tasked with the job of being judges, if they find people like this, they will hate them with a hate that doesn't have any love mixed into it. But that's not an exception to the rule. That has nothing to do with you or me. And then the Rebbe points out, especially in today's day and age, where nobody could be called a heretic or a blasphemer, because like the story about this guy who was a self-proclaimed apikoros, which is a heretic, he said to the previous, I think it was the previous Rebbe, he said, don't forget, you're talking to a heretic, you're talking to an apikoros. And the Rebbe essentially said to him, don't flatter yourself. You're not an apikoros, you're an ignoramus. You don't know enough Torah to be a heretic. You don't know who you're rebelling against. You never met God. You don't know what you're talking about. So you're not a heretic. You're an ignoramus. Today, none of us are qualified to become heretics. We don't know enough. Even halachically, Rambam says that somebody who rebels against God, you have to hate them. They're wicked. They're the apikoros. You're not allowed to give them any recognition in the Jewish community, etc., all this horrible stuff. What about their grandchildren? Rambam said, what about their grandchildren? Bring them in with those thick ropes of love he was talking about, because they were raised into it. They don't know the difference. You can't blame them. That's their grandchildren. How many generations have we gone through now of Jews being forced out of Judaism, out of observance, out of Torah study, because of all of the enemies over the past couple thousand years? So now you're going to blame a Jew and you're going to call a Jew a heretic or an intentional sinner, somebody who's rebelling against God, It's not possible. It doesn't exist in today's world. Even in the Orthodox community, somebody who sins, you're going to say that that's an intentional rebellion? Why? Because their father wears a big fur hat, that's why they're rebellious? They're raised in a world of ignorance. Even the knowledgeable are ignorant compared to what we were expected to know in Torah originally. You know how much of Torah has been destroyed? How many volumes of Torah commentary never made it to the printing press? You can't compare Jews from 500, 1,000, 2,000 years ago to Jews from today. It's a completely erroneous comparison. So today, every single Jew deserves nothing other than 100% love from their fellow Jew. And any judging that you're doing, it's because you have a judgmental character. It's got nothing to do with them. Don't make them a victim of your negative character traits. I think that's a good summary of chapter 32. Love your fellow Jew, period. No